there's just a lot of overlap in everything that we do, and finding a professional, maybe that person is not admin, but almost a next tier up from that, where there's semi-professional or professional, but
Almost a technician, if you're
Yeah.
talking about GIS experience.
right.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it would be a good idea to have maybe a working meeting with Janaea and Nicole and, just kind of brainstorm through this.
Mhm.
But for starters, this is really good information, and will help us with the budget, figuring out the budget.
Great.
Thank
Anything
you,
else?
Sean.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Sean.
All right, stay warm.
And thanks for coming down, Janaea.
Yeah, thank you.
To go to Tracy DUI Task Force.
Swear I resign.
Whose fault is that?
Hi, Tracy.
Good morning.
Thank you.
So every year, we come in May. Statewide DUI task force plans are due to the Department of Transportation by June 1. And then the governor's highway representative for traffic safety, which is Director Tooley of the Department of Transportation, takes them and gives them to our governor for his approval. So we have to compile 4 things to meet state statute for that, and that is our meeting calendar, our member contact list, our budget, and then our annual plan. And our meeting calendar just follows pretty much the last Wednesday of every month, and we meet up on the upper level in the courtroom. We shift around a little bit for holidays in November and December, but we pretty much follow that regardless. And then our contact list is pretty small. We'd love to see more people come to the table with our group, but it has remained fairly small, primarily made up of law enforcement and Corey in the county attorney's office, and then Sharon Doig with the American Legion has been a part of our group for many, many years, and then Mackenzie Gifford with the Highway Patrol. We did lose Chris Ramongo with, she was the prevention specialist here in Broward County, and her position was cut with DPHHS, which is really unfortunate. That will affect some of the prevention efforts in the schools, and that's unfortunate. So nothing we can do about that as far as how DPHHS distributes prevention dollars.
Hey Tracy, do you know if the grants are still out there? DPHHS used to have prevention grants on top of that. Do you know if those were cut as well?
I don't know if they were cut, Laura, or if they were just restructured in how they distributed them, because they took several counties. Chris's job was a multi-county. I believe she was Park, Mar, and Jefferson, or Broadwater, and they pulled all of them away from her, and then last week I found out that she got Park back. So I don't know if they just restructured them, and if they're offered or solicited openly. I'm not really sure how they ended up doing their dollars. It changed from years past, and I try not to follow too many dollar trails.
Sure.
It was all through most of that was all with the budget cuts in the state side last year. And, as much as they're putting prevention and education on DOC component there, but they're not doing it on the civilian side. And really where we needed to hit these people to get them to understand about addiction was the kids, and they cut that money. And so that's not the, I don't think that was the wisest decision in the world, but we're not the powers to be either. So,
Yeah, because Chris worked pretty closely with the counselors and some of the teachers and doing things in the school that we just don't have the capacity to. And it wasn't a lot of dollars spent in items. It was staff time that she was able to provide. So how that's going to look like going forward, I'm not really sure. But it's never a good thing to just pull those items.
Right? You don't ditch the kids.
Right,
It's just that plain and simple.
right.
Okay, thanks. I just was curious when you mentioned lots, the prevention side.
Yeah. Then our budget, the budget that you have in front of you is our fiscal 19 budget and then our estimated fiscal year 20 budget. We don't operate off of a pile of money, but we like to think that we're pretty good stewards of it. Our funding, our complete funding comes from reinstatement fees by state statute, and we receive half of all, when someone's driver's license is suspended, we receive half of that reinstatement fee, which is $100. And that's by state statute. And then once a year, we get money from House Bill 132, which is the collective funding for any county that doesn't have a DUI task force, an approved and formed DUI task force. All of their county funds go into one pot of money, and once a year, that's divided equally amongst all counties that do have a task force and then distributed. So last year we got 276, and that's never you can never tell what that's going to be. So we just threw 276 into this year, and we'll see what we get. It'll come through in July, and so we end up with a little more revenue than last year. And we try really hard every other year to keep a little more money in our fund so that members from our group can attend the Lifesavers Conference. It's a super expensive conference for small groups like us, but it is the largest traffic safety conference in the nation, and several thousand people attend that. So we get a lot out of that when we go, and the downside to that is every session in that conference is worthwhile going to, but there's only so many of us, and we try to split up and gain what we can from it. But that'll come up next year in April.
yeah.
So I was noticing in your budget that some of that money's been shifted to travel and training. Is that the reason why?
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Yep.
It's, so we went last time, we only go every other year, because it's so expensive, and they do it in major areas. So like last year it was in San Antonio, this year it was in Kentucky where the Kentucky Derby's at. You're picking a high dollar venue. And I remember last time, I think the hotel room was a little around $1,200 for the convention. And so, yeah, we try to be diligent and not to go to that too often. But like Tracy said, it's 5 days of nonstop, 8 hours a day blocks of training, from everything from texting to driving to seatbelt to child safety restraints to anything and everything you could think about that occurs in a motor vehicle or on a roadway. And there's a lot of good training there. It's just brilliant. And then of course, you can, some of those areas, you go down to have lunch and it's a $30 bill. It's not, there's nowhere quick and easy near those convention centers. So they kind of get you bent over a barrel there a little bit. So, but we try to, you'll see if you go back in time, it's every other year there's that increase in the travel and training for that reason alone. So.
Very good.
Yeah, so we try to travel with our partners in Lewis and Clark County as well and make it a real group effort, so we're all sharing some of our resources when we come back, and it's worked out really well for us. So although you see our budget has increased from 72, 76 to 10, 276, we still have to rely on what our reinstatement fees are gonna be coming in, and you can never guess or figure out what that's gonna be ahead of time. So, that's as best we could do for that. And then for our plan, and I also sent that to Debbie. I did fill out the spreadsheet that she does. So Debbie already has that based off of the same numbers that are on the form that you guys have, that budget, estimated budget.
Thank you for that.
Mhm.
And on a side note, because the revenue's unattached, we're actually ahead of last year's budget for revenue that we expected. We have another payment coming in at the end of the year for those reinstatement. They're done on a quarterly basis, and so with the due diligence of the guys on patrol, we have visualized that revenue expectation in what we thought we were going to get. So we're ahead of the game already for that. So.
Yep, got a little more money in the bank. So on to our plan, and I'll just kind of go through it quickly, starting on page 3. We start out our plan with a little bit of state overview, and we always support the Department of Transportation's Vision Zero of 0 serious injuries and 0 fatalities on our roadways, whether that's our impaired drivers or our unbuckled passengers and drivers. So those are just fatalities per 100 million vehicle miles traveled, and then the alcohol-related fatalities. That's the exposure that Department of Transportation uses to give them the best data-driven programs. And for us, our data-driven information always comes from the Department of Transportation, crash data, and then citation data. So on page 4, the ultimate goal is 0, and you can see Montana's safety goal. We're right on track to reducing those injuries and fatalities, and that's a lofty goal. The goal of 0 is always a lofty goal, and to strive for anything above one person dying is an unacceptable option. Page 5 is our occupant restraint use in alcohol-related crash fatalities. Not all DUI task forces put this in their plan, and I'm not sure why, because alcohol in and of itself isn't killing people on our roadways. It certainly impairs their ability to drive safely and to navigate roadways safely, but they are dying on our roadways because they're thrown around inside their car and out of their car. It's super simple science. So we have always had occupant restraint use in our plan, and we do a lot of stuff accordingly with it. The benefit to that is my program is the Buckle Up Montana coordinator for the Tri-County area, is that I get to come over. Brevard County is one of my counties, and I get to come over and participate and help in educating people with occupant restraint use. So statewide, there's our restraint use. And then at the bottom of page 5 is the impaired driving charges and convictions statewide for all law enforcement agencies. I tend to look at that box, and it's citations go up and they go down, and data can be confusing, and it never comes in super timely. So when you're trying to work on data-driven programs, you could do a lot of work one year and you're not going to see the data, the positive end to that for a couple of years down the road, because crash data and citation data isn't immediate, and it takes a couple of years for it to become completely available, so I don't know if Wynn has any insight to the statewide citation data. Okay.
Well, that's just based on to me.
Yeah, I think we'll have a little more insight when we get right to our county data. So page 6 is just blood alcohol concentration in fatal crashes and the 5-year average for that type of data stuff. The cost of alcohol abuse. That particular information is being tracked by Department of Transportation because some people are more interested in cost savings than life savings. And there's that information there. And then on page 7, just a little background about DUI task forces. They started and were first formed in '87. Broadwater County came on board in 2008,
No, it was before that.
formally, right around.
Because Timmy was here. Timmy left.
Tim
Timmy left.
and Ben were
Yeah.
part of
it might have
that, so
been- It might have been '07.
it could have been '07, '08. So we've been reaping the benefits of receiving those reinstatement fees since then and trying to work hard to use our small pot of money accordingly. Page 8 is Broadwater County's citation for all law enforcement agencies, which you know is just the Highway Patrol and the Sheriff's Office. I don't know, Wynn, if you have anything to add for just the,
No, I do know the numbers are completely different. For 18, one of the things that we deal with, we don't deal with a lot of, it doesn't seem like we have a lot of first offense, we have a lot of second offense. And the nice thing is under statute now, on the second or subsequent offense, we can get a search warrant if you refuse to take a test. And so those have been, I think those are, people understand that and they're choosing not to refuse that test because they know we're gonna get it one way or the other. And so I think that's where that number, when you look at the refusal, I think you're gonna see even probably that same number there, but the amount of DUIs and aggravated DUIs have been fairly significant. During Utah, during the last Lifesavers, Utah has a .05 BAC level. And it's not, everybody uses it as a legal limit. No, it's not. In Montana, everybody says .08 is a legal limit. It's not .08. .041, you can get a DUI. It's just that at .08, you're automatically going to go to jail. You can get arrested at .041. People don't realize that. But under the thing when they talked about Utah going to .05, everybody threw a fit. Montana talked about it a little bit. The fact of the matter is the average BAC for a DUI in Utah is greater than .16. So that's our aggravated DUI limit. So even reducing the limit to .05 hasn't changed people's conduct behavior. If you're going to drink and drive, you're going to drink and drive, and the limits are apparent with that. I wish we had some data to show what our average BACs are, but it's not uncommon to get people who are anywhere from a .225 all the way up to a .35 operating motor vehicles in our county. So it's one of those that I wish we might try to stat it somehow. I'm not sure how to do that, but I'd be curious to see what those levels are, but they're significant. So
the bottom of page 8 is your alcohol-related and seatbelt use crash data. If you think about the total number of fatalities in Broadwater County being, 6 doesn't seem significant in number-wise. But 1 or 2 numbers above that can jump our graph up significantly, which is what you see in 2017. There were those 2 fatalities make that graph seem pretty significant. And on page 9 is just a couple more data sets. Right under the first graph, impaired driver crashes in Broadwater County have fluctuated every year since 2008. and decreased dramatically from 2013 to 15, but increased in 2016 and again in 2017. And then the bottom graph, fatal and serious injury crashes involving an impaired driver in Broadwater County have been higher in the summer months for every year from 2008 to 2017, with the exception of 2012 when there were more crashes in the winter months. And that is that misconception that when we have snowy, icy roads that there are more crashes, and that's just not the case statewide and in almost every county. There are more crashes in our warmer summer months on dry, clear days than anything else. So page 10 is the comparison between male and female alcohol-related fatal and serious injury crashes. That has been consistent here in Broadwater County. You know, about 30% are females and 70% are males. That is going to change in the 2018 data. That is going to be a complete switch, where in 2018 data there were 3 times as many females involved in your alcohol-related serious and fatal injury crashes here in Broadwater County. And that probably will be the first time for any county statewide that the comparison between male and female does a complete swap. The bottom of page 10 is just by age, and that shows that your 21 to 40-year-olds are highly overrepresented in those severe and fatal injury crashes. So that's the age group that you would like to target, but meeting that for 21 to 40 year age group, unless you go to a bar, I guess, and talk to them there, it'd be hard to find that where they hang out in Broadwater County. So page 11 is just a little more data of drinking and driving among our teenagers, and we have captured this data and tried to put it in our plan every year because it's always interesting to see what that looks like and how that changes. But that top data, we should never see 8th graders drinking and driving because they probably don't even have a driver's license, but sometimes it pops up in the data. And then you can see the 10th graders and 12th graders. And this information comes from the prevention needs assessment that the Department of Public Health and Human Services does every other year. And strikingly, the first graph with the 12th graders from 2016 to 2018, that is a huge decrease in the number of kids who report drinking and driving. And that's a positive for us. That bottom graph for 12th, 10th, and 8th graders that shows where they get their alcohol. And so they are still predominantly getting their alcohol. The 8th graders and 10th graders get it from someone they know who is 21 years and older and at home without their parents' permission. And then the 12th grade students report that they predominantly get their alcohol from someone they know who is 21 years and older, from a party or a keg, and from home without their parents' permission. Hasn't changed much. Page 12 is our challenges here, and those are still our, DUI offenders, our minors and underage in possession of alcohol, the illegal alcohol sales, and lack of seatbelt use.
I will say, the last time we used to do the compliance checks ourselves, and now we go through Have or Help. And they come down, they basically run it, and we go out there. But out of 17 establishments in Broadwater County, 4 of them failed last time they sold to a minor. And this isn't rocket science. I mean, a juvenile driver's license is vertical compared to an adult who's got a horizontal. So that should be an indicator right out of the gate. And these guys are still selling alcohol to a minor. We had one where a 19 or 20-year-old girl went in and asked for a Rainier bottle. Give me a break. If you got a brain in your head, there ain't an 18, 19, 20-year-old girl in the world that wants a Rainier beer. That should have been an indicator right there, and they still sold. For them, it becomes a Department of Revenue fine against them, and they can lose their liquor license. But you can't, I don't know how we fix that, without taking someone's license at some point here, because it's very simple. I mean, I could teach a monkey to look at an ID and tell it was a juvenile or an adult, for Christ's sakes, and we have 4 out of 17 that fail, so.
Yeah, that's an issue. Right above program goal on page 12, says that we support the state's impaired driving assessment. Every 3 years, the federal National Highway Traffic Safety Administration comes to Montana. They're required to do an assessment on all impaired driving programs, and they just had that assessment in December of 2018. So we're always on board with that, and we always support that. We did get an opportunity in that particular assessment. They asked for a representation from Broward County to come and talk about our Super Bowl party that we do here. And that's always a highlight for us. We're always happy to share that information and let people know why we do that and what the effort and goal is for that. But I will tell you, when we had our Super Bowl party in February of this year, we had 90 students attend. And you know that we came and asked for some assistance with that party. We had tossed around eliminating our middle school students that we've only invited for 1 year this year in February, because we weren't sure if we had enough money to support having them come. And with the help of the commissioners, the $1,000 that you guys gave us for help, having still included those middle school students, we ended up on probably one of the worst days in January, February, and March, being Super Bowl Sunday, and we had 90 kids come to the school gym here, and they just kept coming, and we weren't expecting it, so we didn't order a lot of food and stuff, and our sheriff's office had to keep running to get more food and more drink for these kids, and to have 90 students in Townsend show up on a day when they are typically exposed to watching their adults or other adults drink is a pretty good feeling for us, and it's probably the best thing that we do all year, if you ask me.
That turned out really well, and the middle school kids were pretty engaged in the football game, which was just crazy. I thought they'd be screwing around, and they were more into the game, all huddled in front of the TV, and the high school kids were on their phones and doing everything else. But it was still a good event, and yeah, it worked out well.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think that's excellent what you guys do.
it's an excellent evening. I mean, we have
It's
reservation every year. It's a lot. It's a lot.
Yeah.
It's a long day for us. It's of course, most of us are total football fans, and we probably could spend the day with our families enjoying the game and staying home. But we've done it here for,
Well, it's over 10 years.
10 years consistently, and even though you I head over here on that afternoon, grumbling a little bit, I leave here just being totally happy with having spent time here, and the teenagers here just behave themselves well, and they come in the gym and they're just fine, so it's time well spent.
Yeah.
The high school kids are a little messy, though.
They're messy.
They're messy.
But they're there, and they're staying sober, and they're spending time with us, and we're spending time with them. So on page 13 is just our administration, our objectives under policy and legislation. This year during the legislative session, there were some pretty strong DUI bills that came forward to combine a lot of things and make it a little more, what would you
User-friendly?
say, Win?
User-friendly.
Yeah.
Well, there was
user-friendly.
not necessarily user-friendly. Some of the bills some of the bills actually enhanced. Senate Bill 60 was actually to enhance the penalty for fifth or subsequent offense DUI. Believe it or not, district judges and municipal judges and JPs were the largest opponent to that. They stood up and opposed that bill very hard. It died right there in committee and never made it anywhere else. And that was actually after I think it was heard in the House. Part of that was the when you look at like 81% of the deaths that occur in Montana highways revolving around alcohol-related crashes. 81% of the people who were the cause of that crash because of the DUI component, it was their first offense. It was their first time to get caught drinking and driving, and it took someone's life. We tried to emphasize that, and I supported a bill, and so along with Highway Patrol and DUI task force around the state, the judges were opposed to it because it took away their jurisdictional authority to make a decision based upon a person's conduct and behavior in a courtroom. I kind of disagree with that thought process as well, but there's a couple other bills that came through just trying to clean up the statutes and stuff, and anything around the DUI. Obviously in Montana, we're still back in the day that alcohol is very socially acceptable and a lot of components, and I guess human life is a little less worthy than a 12-pack of Bud Light, I guess, and so the legislation just flat refused to take any forward motion on it, which is pretty disheartening to say the least. So,
Yeah. Same with the introduction of a primary seatbelt bill this session. For the first time ever in the history of primary seatbelt legislation, nobody stood up and opposed the bill, and the House Judiciary Committee still tabled it. So we're behind in the thought process of saving lives. Then on page 14 is our enforcement, prosecution, adjudication training. Some of the things that we do for that. 15, same thing. 16, our education, intervention, awareness, and media advocacy when it comes to reducing alcohol and impaired driving incidences. And 17 is just following major mobilizations nationwide and statewide with impaired driving or seatbelt use, to include things like Safe as a Bulldog Week, those types of things. Page 18, the same type of stuff with the rodeo, Teen Driver Safety Week, our Super Bowl party, and high visibility mobilizations. And then our evaluation component, which is always crash data and citation data. And then page 19 is just our meeting information and special projects. So that's it.
You guys do great work.
I agree.
I will move to approve and adopt the calendar, the members list, the plan, and the budget as presented by the UI task force.
Second?
I'll second the motion.
Motion been made and seconded to move and adopt the Broward County US Task Force plan. Budget, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same. Motion carries.
if you guys get bored, you can come to the
You
meeting.
want us to sign
I
this?
brought
Tracy?
a couple of copies of just the signature page.
How, do you want us to sign all of these?
I only need one. I didn't know how many you would need, but
Should we do two and keep one here?
Yeah.
so if something changes drastically with our budget, or we end up with a windfall or serious shortfall, then we'll come back to this group and let you know. And
Please.
and if you come across any community members that would like to join our group, we'd love to have them.
You want that?
Chairman, a quick question. What is the total annual budget that you're talking about that you're approving right now?
For this year, Tim, it'll be about $10,276.
10276?
Yep.
And then I guess if we could possibly get a copy of that, that would be great, thank you.
Do you want me to give him my copy?
Sure.
And the rest of your document there that you went through, if you have
Oh.
an extra copy of that, that would be great.
If you're going down there.
Yeah.
And I emailed all of those over. Michelle has the electronic of all of those documents. And then as soon as Department of Transportation approves it, we'll get an email from Kevin Dusko, and we'll share that final approval with you guys as well.
You good?
I'm good.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
You don't wanna talk about anything else while you're up here?
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Tracy. Oh, don't
thank
leave
you.
yet, man.
What?
Don't leave yet.
Don't
Oh,
leave yet.
no, I gotta get my other thing.
You're next.
Thank you.
Thanks.
We're gonna close or recess the county commissioners hearing and open a public hearing to adopt a resolution by request of the sheriffs to increase daily jail rates.
Did you guys get I sent it all to you guys. Did you guys get it?
Yes.
Okay. Anybody want one?
Thank you.
Mr. Ed?
Is that one?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can have that. Yes? Okay. So, we took an increase, $17,000 a year increase to the sewer rate from the city. And then we have an expected water rate increase coming up as well. And so, trying to figure out how we're gonna balance that out. We haven't adjusted the daily jail rates, since 2013, where they were set from 63 and change, went up to 65.95. And so, I'm trying to figure out how to combat the water usage issue. The more people we have in jail, obviously, the higher the sewer and water go up. And so, basically just raising up $2. I'm still trying to keep it somewhat as a marketable thing to have people come here and house their inmates. So trying to keep it underneath the $69 threshold that the DOC has capped, because that's as much as they're gonna go anyways. But to still make it somewhat appealing to other jurisdictions, only raise it up $2. If we had 30 inmates at but that $2 a day, it brings us up about $22,000. So that should cover the increase in the sewer and the water increase that we are expecting later this year. Now, with that being said, that doesn't change anything. When we looked at, there used to be a formula that we did to base our jail rate. DOC kind of got away with that when they just capped it. And so we haven't really done much with that, but obviously a change in salaries, longevity of the officers that get paid more, inflationary costs, and none of that comes into play. This is just simply, we're keeping it where we were, but adding the $2 a day just for the water issue. Right now, we use about 200,000 gallons a month. That's a whole lot of water coming and going. And so, I thought that was an easy fix. So here we are, we've published it twice, the 10th and the 17th in the local newspaper, and we're here for the hearing to just.
And I know you guys are still trying to pursue some cost-saving measures with some of that
We are.
controls equipment that you
Yeah.
discovered and
So-
something, so.
Yeah, Mike, when I was down at Western State Sheriff's Association in Reno, it was all about jails and detention centers and that type of environment. There's some products out there Mike's got the paperwork on how to use water-saving control devices. So he's checking to find some prices to see what it would take. If we can reduce the amount of that water flow, and one of the things that's in there is a locking mechanism so right now they can push the button as many times as they want, and that water keeps flowing. You can set it to where if they flush the toilet more than twice in 5 minutes, it locks them out for an hour. that would be a good deterrent. They can't flood themselves that way, which is nice. Same with the sink, same with the shower. So we could actually reduce that. We just don't know what it's gonna cost, because we don't, I've seen the adapter to it, but then the installation, the wiring components and everything else, I'm not sure what that really comes out to play. So if it's something down the future that, you know, it's gonna be, you know, somewhat, yeah, I'm sure it's gonna be a significant cost to it right out of the gate, but in the long run, is it gonna save us money? And, I mean, if we could drop that from 200,000 gallons a month to 100,000 gallons, that's a nice chunk of change to save. And I think it would pay for itself in the long run. Depends on what the maintenance looks like of it as well. But, so I did throw a couple things at Mike. The other thing we might wanna look at, and from a safety component, and I know that Gallatin County, not to change the subject on you, but we brought that up as well, is they're putting up cages, not a cage, but basically a cage type wall on the top tier, so people don't jump off. And that might be something in the near future that we look at, maybe trying to do as well, is put some sort of system in there, so people don't take a nosedive off the top rail. And that creates a whole different problem when they do that. So, there's some things we gotta look at, and plan for the future. So, especially in the safety component of that. But, that's my spiel on the resolution, so if there's any questions, Lance? Okay, I'll go sit down.
Any other public comment? Close the public hearing for the adoption of the daily jail rate increase and reopen the commissioners meeting with the decision to adopt a resolution by request of the sheriff to increase daily jail rates.
Yes, I'll move to adopt a resolution to increase the inmate boarding rate.
I'll second the motion.
Motion been made and seconded to adopt the resolution to request of the sheriff to increase daily jail rates. Any further discussion? I would like to add one thing. We had the sheriff's department had a peer review look at the detention center, and it came out with flying colors. I think you were
93%.
Were you 93% or 97? 93, and the deficiencies were like 5 sentences that weren't in the program. So you guys run a really good operation, and thanks for all the work you
Thank
guys
you.
put in for
Did a
that.
great job, you guys.
Yeah, nice job.
So we will move to a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same. Motion carries.
Excuse me, Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
Doesn't say here, but just for clarification, what was the previous rate?
Oh, it's right on the second.
Unless I missed it.
65.95.
I missed it, sorry.
No, you're okay.
Thank you. My bad.
See, the 11:30 has been canceled. Go to the 11:45, Mary Hendrickson.
He's gonna go grab her.
Good morning.
Good morning. Okay, I have several items this morning to talk to you about. The first is the solid waste ordinance. I'm sorry, I did bring, oh, okay, I did bring extra copies. So, several months ago, Brandon and Corey and I sat down to look at the ordinance that we have in place and 2017 legislature made some changes to, some definitions and penalties, so we needed to revise our ordinance.
Thank you.
So if you don't mind, I'll just go through it with you really quick. So this is an ordinance providing enforcement authority for the regulation and disposal of solid waste within Broadwater County and providing a penalty for violation. So it reads, pursuant to the powers and duties of a local government to manage solid waste in accordance with section 75-10-112 MCA and the authority of a local government to adopt an ordinance to enforce its powers pursuant to section 7-5-101 at Sec MCA, be it ordained by the Board of County Commissioners of Broadwater County. 1. Only individuals assessed a user's fee pursuant to an agreement between local governments, a fee assessed on a particular property, or a fee pursuant to section 75-10-113 MCA, or other authorized agent, employee, or representative of such person, corporation, or other entity may dump any household solid waste, household garbage, debris, refuse, or other household waste products in any waste canister. 2. It is unlawful for any other person or persons, corporation, or other entity to dump any such waste products in canisters belonging to Broadwater County. Unauthorized use is considered theft of labor or services pursuant to section 45-6-305 MCA. 3. Removal of solid waste from any disposal, transfer, recycling, or other solid waste management facility or container by a person, corporation, or other entity is considered trespassing. Trespassing on county property is considered a violation of this ordinance. 4. Solid waste, as used in this ordinance, has the meaning established by Montana law, section 75-10-103, sub 7 MCA. 5. A person, corporation, or other entity violating this ordinance prescribed by the Board of County Commissioners is guilty of a misdemeanor and shall be fined not more than $500. 6. Each day upon which a violation occurs is a separate violation. 7. Each individual act is a separate violation. So basically, in 2017, the legislature removed the penalty of serving jail time for theft. So that was why we needed to revise this ordinance.
And I see you removed the community service too, portion.
Yes.
Okay.
That was Corey's suggestion because it's really hard to, it's problematic.
Yeah, it is. So on number 3, I guess, were you still gonna allow people to leave something that was serviceable up on the top deck?
Yes, you
Okay.
just can't take it out of the containers
Can't
once
do
it's
that.
in there.
That's
Mhm.
kind of the main thing, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Good work on this, Mary.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I had good help. So my request is to consider this ordinance for adoption, and according to the code, an ordinance must be read and adopted by a majority vote of members present at 2 meetings of the governing body not less than 12 days apart. After the first adoption and reading, it must be posted and copies must be made available to the public.
So I have a question on how this is gonna work. Can you have Wynn come back in, please?
Sure.
So on this resolution that we're considering for the solid waste and these violations, I guess you're gonna have to get involved in this, right?
Allegedly.
Okay.
It's gonna be tough. And the thing, is, it's not what you know, it's what you can prove. And so, I'm gonna be realistic, somebody dumps their garbage there, and we go up there and it's sitting outside the gate, if that's one of the complaints. Trying to prove who dumped it there, even though it's got somebody's name in it, I can't go and charge somebody for littering because their garbage is sitting outside. They might have had somebody, they're gonna say, I had somebody drop it off for me, they didn't take it in, it's not my fault. And then that person will say, I didn't do it. So, it can be very time consuming, so. I haven't seen the ordinances there, so. Conversation, I didn't have any dog in the fight.
So basically what this will do, when, right now I'm getting emails or text messages from people that provide me a picture of someone without a county, not Broadwater County license plates.
That doesn't do any good.
Right, but I can't do anything right now anyhow.
The problem is with the way the plates are, is one, if they're permanent plates, the law does not require you to change your vehicle plates. If you move out of Gallatin County until you have to renew your plate, it's gonna say 6 county, it's gonna say 32 county, it's gonna say whatever county it is. You could live in Broward County, your plate's gonna indicate that you live somewhere else. That is not a giveaway. Permanent plates, you never have to change them. If they're the Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation or wherever it may be, you can't tell what county they're from anyways. So that's part of the problem. But it could be an easy fix. It's just gonna take some boots on the ground to go through and actually track down the person and say, where do you live? And then, especially if it comes off that south end. I mean, if in that Rehrersburg area, you got so many people jumping the line out of Bozeman, Belgrade, Manhattan, and all that. They're jumping the line to come over here. They're gonna have those plates for a while.
Right, so what I will have is, I will have attendance when these sites are open now, and they will have hang tags or stickers.
Yep.
On their vehicle,
Yep.
yep.
And I think that's gonna be, I mean, for the most part, if you put a 43 sticker on your mirror, that's gonna be a pretty good indicator, because that's where you've been validated, is that you're a county resident. Some of these guys come in, they're gonna look over at the mirror, yeah, I can see that 43 sticker,
Right.
life's good. I mean, and really the hang tag at that point, if you're gonna do the sticker on the window, yeah, the hang tag might be appropriate if it was, business or something like that, but if you had, as a resident, if you had a 43 sticker, this, a 2018 or 19 43 sticker on there, you've already been validated, you're a county resident. The hang tag's pointless,
Well-
in an aspect, for the most part. If people were smart enough to put it on there. I mean, if you did change the colors every year or whatever else, but, there's gonna be some issues, but,
Do you have to be a resident of the county or have property in the county so you get an assessment?
You have to be a homeowner.
Or renter. Or rent, well, the homeowner gets
Right,
the
okay.
renter.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the renter's the one dumping the garbage, not the owner.
But it's up to the homeowner is the one paying the assessment, so it's up to the homeowner to give those tags to, I can't do that. I don't have the authority to do that.
so
I can only give it to the people that pay the assessment.
what about like Benton Fox? So he's a Texan that owns the old Dagnall Ranch. So he's got,
If he's on the list I have that pays
So,
the assessment,
okay. So he'd get, well, I think that's what she was referring to, it's that he's not a resident, he doesn't live here.
Right.
But he obviously owns a lot of land here, so I think that was what, just in conjunction. So he'd get a permit sent to him and wherever he lives in Texas then, okay. Yeah, I don't think that's a problem.
all right.
Do you have issues with it, Rick?
Yes.
It's just redoing the code, so it's not, just change it.
There's 3 issues that have been brought up with this whole thing. And it circulates mostly around dumpster drivers, but one we need to protect our people against identity theft. Two, what if one of those dumpster drivers steps on a needle, a dirty needle? And three, what if somebody throws a bag of garbage, something heavy on it, hits a dumpster driver in the head? I just don't think there's a choice but to have something that says you can't hold this.
Oh, I agree, they don't need to be down in the dumpster, they don't.
No,
But I know a lot of times, just this morning I went to the canister site, so we left some perfectly serviceable chairs there.
right,
If somebody can use them,
right.
Yeah, no, I think.
No, and I would
like
just as
that.
soon
Yeah.
keep those out of the canister,
yeah,
yeah,
but if it's in the canister,
Yeah.
it's a no-go.
right,
I'm totally
right,
down with that.
yes, yep, it is dangerous.
This, what they're talking about.
So I will move that we accept this as the first reading of the ordinance providing enforcement authority for the regulation and disposal of solid waste within Broadwater County and providing a penalty for violation.
Is there a second?
One second motion.
Any further discussion?
What's that?
Public comment? Seeing none, we'll take a vote to approve this on the first reading for the solid waste ordinance. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Yes, no?
So, I guess because my hearing sometimes is not the best. So the ordinance here, or what you're signing here, it's for people that crawl down into your dumpsters?
It's part of it, yes.
Is that, I mean,
Yes, because that is considered trespassing. When that waste is in the canister, it is property of Broadwater County, because those are Broadwater County canisters.
and what was the other part? You said that that was part of it. I thought it was all based on theft.
And
Well,
you have
but-
to pay you have to be an assessment payer.
Oh, okay,
You have to pay to use it.
right.
Yes,
Okay, so I
basically.
thought it was, so basically, this ordinance is on theft
yes,
of dumpsters.
yep, theft of services.
cans taken
out of
the dumpster.
Yes.
Coles boys are gonna be out of business.
Well, I'll just have to go down and get more stuff.
Okay,
They do that.
Debbie?
I'm Debbie Randall. We talked on the phone
Uh-huh.
2 weeks ago.
yeah,
Rod and Gun hat now, not Trust Board.
yes,
Did you get my email?
I did.
Okay, great.
Yes,
So the Rod and Gun.
they'll go out this week,
Thank you.
yes.
Because it came to our attention, Rod and Gun doesn't get assessed property taxes, but we generate some garbage.
Mhm.
So thank you.
Yep, yep. Okay.
Okay.
Okay, so that motion is passed on that, so we will have another reading in next meeting. Okay,
Okay,
that's
all right, mosquito. So, I've been talking to Jessica, and we've been talking about mosquito fogging this year, and kind of how we're going to do that, what the plan is, what we'd like to do with that. She's actually at a meeting this morning with Carroll College. We want to try to do more larviciding than what was done last year. But we've looked over the mosquito truck and the fogger. It's old, the equipment's old, the truck's big. It makes it hard to maneuver through some of the alleyways here in town that we do. And the fogger is old, it's not really that efficient anymore. So one thing that I asked Jessica to do, I took a look first of all at our CIP for mosquitoes. And we have $97,751 and $93 in there right now. And so what I asked Jessica to do is put together some costs for new equipment. And so we're looking at a new fogger. It's a 19 horsepower fogger. Comes with a, I think a 12-gallon gas tank. And it'll hold 12 gallons of product, which is a lot more than what we have currently. And that whole setup, the total unit cost on that for the fogger, the Guardian, which what that does is that regulates the flow based on the vehicle speed. And then there's a geo-tracker so that we can track where we go when we do our fogging activities. That whole total unit cost is $15,115. And we would like to use the CIP for that new equipment. Another thing that I had asked her to do is put together some bids for a vehicle. And we're looking at a mid-size extended cab pickup for that. And she was able to get 3 bids. Those bids range